Discover how an unexpected encounter with a female construction worker changed a billionaire's life forever. Jack Remington, Chicago's most notorious billionaire, was used to getting what he wanted. With every boardroom battle won, his world became shinier, yet somehow more hollow. His days blurred together a whirlwind of meetings, extravagant parties, and hollow compliments, devoid of genuine connection. Yet, there was no escape from the unshakable isolation that came with his wealth. On an ordinary afternoon, Jack raced down the bustling city streets, carefully crafted plans swirling in his mind. His sleek black car, a symbol of his triumph, suddenly sputtered and died near a chaotic construction site. Frustrated, he stepped out, the cacophony of hammers and shouts filling his ears. Craning his neck, he spotted Anna, a sturdy construction worker in faded jeans and a hard hat, radiant in the hot sun. Her hands were weathered, calloused from years of hard labor, but her smile was warm and genuine. As she approached with a spark of curiosity, Jack felt something stir deeply within him. The women who populated his world were typically polished, always primed for their next social climb. Anna didn't care for pretense, she was real. "Need a hand?" she asked, wiping sweat from her brow. As he explained his plight, their conversation drifted toward deeper waters. Anna shared her story growing up in a rough Chicago neighborhood, battling to support her family after her father lost his job. Jack felt a wave of something unfamiliar wash over him. Here was resilience, the grit that built families and raised communities. It shook the very foundations of his worldview. Success and worth were not just about money. Just as their conversation heated up with shared humanity, a sudden clang echoed through the site. Workers shouted, chaos erupted, and injuries occurred. Jack instinctively rushed to help, trying to flex his financial muscle in a moment of crisis. "I can cover the medical bills," he shouted, but his well-meaning efforts ignited frustration among the workers. Tensions flared. He had only stirred the pot instead of helping. Anna's eyes hardened as she watched her colleagues fume. This isn't how you help," she cried, and Jack felt the sting of connection fraying. He wanted to scream, "I want to do good," but could his wealth really make a difference without acknowledging the underlying issues? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Caught between the reality of his privilege and the consequences of his actions, Jack felt a hollow ache in his gut. He realized his empire had shielded him from pain, yet here, among working-class heroes, he was confronted with the raw truths of life. The barriers between him and Anna seemed now insurmountable. As he stood there, heart racing, it struck him, could he be the force for change he'd always wanted to be? Or was he just a billionaire, lost in his own world, simply playing dress-up in the harsh light of reality? As Anna turned away, disappointment painted on her face, Jack felt a desperate urgency bubbling within him. He couldn't let this moment slip by. Could he bridge the chasm that separated them, or was he too late? Jack stared at Anna's retreating figure, a mix of regret and determination flooding his veins. For just a moment, he wanted to reach out, to grab her arm and pull her back. But the words died on his lips. He watched as she blended back into the crowd of workers, that vibrant smile replaced by a cloud of frustration. It hurt more than he expected that he turned his gaze to the chaotic scene around him, the workers bustling about in a frenzy, tending to the injured and managing the fallout of the incident. Jack had always prided himself on his ability to solve problems with swift financial solutions, but this was different. This world didn't care about checks or bank accounts. It was about trust and teamwork, and he had disrupted that with his misplaced attempts to help. Sinking onto a nearby stack of lumber, Jack took a deep breath, his hands gripping the rough edge of the wood. The sun beat down on him relentlessly, mirroring the heat of his internal conflict. What did it mean to truly help? His chest felt tight as memories of board meetings and high-stakes deals flashed through his mind. None of that compared to the raw energy of the people working around him, united by a common purpose. Anna returned to his thoughts. Her story resonated with him, and suddenly, he was overwhelmed with a compulsion to do more than just throw money at problems. He wanted to understand. To learn. With renewed purpose, Jack stood up. He scanned the site and quickly approached a group of workers gathered around a man who had hurt his arm. "Can I help?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. One worker shot him a skeptical look. "Unless you can fix a fracture, I doubt you can do much here." Deflated but undeterred, Jack cringed at how right they were. He had no clue what to do. But he wasn't ready to give up. "No, but I can help get him to the hospital," he offered, his voice slightly more confident this time. The worker hesitated, glancing quickly at his peers, who exchanged looks of disbelief before nodding. So they stood together, forming a human chain to assist the injured man. Jack felt exhilaration bubbling inside him as he worked alongside them, lifting the stretcher and ensuring everyone was playing their part. This action was not about money, it was about being there. As they reached the edge of the construction site and prepared to ease the injured worker into the back of a waiting ambulance, Jack saw Anna again, standing at a distance, arms crossed, watching him. The corners of her lips curled, not quite into a smile, but he hoped it reflected her cautious approval. It was just a moment, but it felt monumental. The sirens wailed into the distance as the ambulance departed, and Jack turned back to Anna, approaching her with tentative steps. "I am sorry for earlier," he started, his heart racing. "I just wanted to help, but I see now that I need to learn how to really help." She looked at him, scrutinizing, and Jack could feel her weighing his words. "It's not just about money, Jack," she responded, the warmth returning to her voice. "It's about understanding." He nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle in. "Teach me," he blurted out, almost desperately. Would she accept his offer? A flicker of surprise crossed her face, then a spark of hope. "What do you want to learn?" Jack took a deep breath as his resolve strengthened. "Everything. I want to know about this world. About the people that make it turn." Anna studied him, then slowly nodded, as if weighing a new decision. "All right, but it won't be easy. Are you ready to get your hands dirty?" A smile broke through the tension for the first time, and Jack found himself laughing an unfamiliar yet joyful sound. Could it be that this was the beginning of a new chapter in his life? As he followed Anna to the heart of the construction site, excitement bubbled within him. But before they could dive deeper, a loud crash erupted from the site, sending both of them sprinting back toward the chaos. Jack's heart raced, the thrill of his new purpose suddenly colliding with uncertainty. What awaited them on that chaotic construction site would test not just Jack's resolve to change but the very fabric of his understanding. Would he find the strength to adapt, or was he stepping into a storm he couldn't predict? Jack and Anna raced back to the construction site, adrenaline coursing through their veins. The air felt thick with tension and dust spiraled up in the sunlight. The loud crash echoed ominously through the chaos. Men and women were shouting now, faces drawn in concentration and concern. As they approached the scene, Jack could see a pile of fallen scaffolding near a group of workers. His heart dropped. A few workers were attempting to pull one of their own from under the wreckage. Panic mixed with determination filled the area, and Jack felt that familiar weight of helplessness creeping in again. "Stay back!" shouted a foreman, hands raised to hold them at bay. "But we can help," Anna insisted, urgency lacing her tone. Jack could hear her voice tremble, the fear breaking through her tough exterior. "Not without proper training. Just wait." Jack shifted on his feet. He could see the struggle on the faces of the workers, their muscles straining as they attempted to clear debris. Without thinking, he stepped closer. He could feel Anna's presence beside him, sharing that same fierce desire to be useful. "Anna," he said, trying to think clearly amid the storm. "Can you direct them? Tell them what they need." She blinked, realizing he was right. Yes, I can do that. As Anna began barking orders, Jack's focus honed in on the men trying to lift the scaffolding. The way they grunted and strained made his heart ache, not from exertion but from the fear of what lay beneath. He stepped up to them, offering his hands. "Where do you need me?" The foreman hesitated, then relented, "Grab that side." "On 3. 1, 2, 3 together," they pulled. It felt like wrestling a giant. Jack's muscles burned as he gritted his teeth, straining with everything he had. Every inch they managed to budge felt monumental. Anna worked beside them, shouting where to push and shift, guiding the team through this desperate moment. Finally, a weak but audible gasp was heard. A worker, bloodied but alive, was gradually freed from under the wreckage. Relief washed over the group, but Jack felt a claw of terror scratch at his insides when he caught a glimpse of the man's injuries. That raw connection to someone who had just lived through a nightmare shook him. Moments like these played out in his mind like a film reel. He had always associated pain and suffering with distant reports, not right here on this site and right in front of him. They called for a medic now, and Jack stepped back, breathless, heart racing. Anna stood beside him, her expression fierce but fragile. "You did good, Jack," she said earnestly, her voice a mix of pride and something deeper. "I didn't just do this, we did it," he insisted, his eyes searching hers for assurance. "Yeah," she murmured, almost shy. "But you were willing to try." Just then, the weight of the situation settled in. The reality of how fragile life could be hit harder than he expected. The camaraderie that had sparked in the hustle of the chaos added a new layer to his understanding of teamwork, of human connection, but that brief moment of victory was cut short when sirens pierced through the air again, reintroducing a sense of urgency. The injured man was being wheeled away, his fate uncertain, and it struck Jack. The fight was far from over. "Jack, do you see what's happening here?" Anna's voice lifted above the noise, her eyes searching his. "This is more than just a day's work. It's people's lives." He nodded slowly, realizing that every second mattered. The engagement of people working together had the power to change outcomes. "Then let's not wait. Let us learn how to do this better." A sudden explosion of noise drew his attention as a commotion arose on the other side of the site. Jack's heart raced. Was there more danger lurking? "Are you ready for what comes next?" Anna asked, her gaze intense and ignited with purpose. "More than ever," he replied, feeling a fire ignite within him, one that continued to evolve into a mission he never anticipated. But just as he set his mind to take that leap forward, his phone buzzed in his pocket. A message. His heart sank as he glanced down. It was from his father, and the word struck him like a lightning bolt: "We need to talk about the company." Could it be that he now had to face his old world while holding on to this new, promising connection? Jack stared at the screen, his father's words echoing in his mind. The weight of the construction site, the lifeline they had just fought for, felt like a distant memory as reality crashed back in. The company. The family business. Everything he had wanted to escape was tugging at him now, his breaths quickened. "Anna, I have to take this," he said, backing away slightly. The urgency in the air shifted, and Anna's brow furrowed. "Jack, don't let it pull you away," she urged, stepping closer. "You know what matters right now. Don't let your past get in the way of what you found here." For a moment, Jack stood torn between two worlds. The chaos of the site whirled around them, but inside him a different storm brewed. His father's legacy loomed large, one that he had rejected, one he had vowed to escape. Yet, here was Anna, a pillar of strength, challenging him to commit to something greater. It struck him that it wasn't just about his ties to the company, but what that connection meant for everyone around him. He felt the vibration of his phone again, pulling him back into reality. The noise of the site seemed to fade for a moment, and all he could hear was the rapid thump of his heart. Should he respond? Should he invite the chaos of his past back into this new life he was trying to build? Talking with him could help you might understand things differently, Anna suggested, her eyes softening as she sensed his inner battle. But what if it takes me away from here from this? You face the company your way, she said firmly, now holding his gaze. You have a choice, Jack. Don't let anyone else decide it for you. Just remember how you felt today. Her words ignited a spark deep inside him. Every moment on the site had shaped him, shown him the value of community, the importance of risking everything for someone else. I will remember, he promised, pulling his eyes away from the screen. I need a moment. Anna nodded, stepping back but remaining nearby, giving him the space he needed. Jack took a deep breath, grounding himself in the present, the cries for help, the pulse of urgency, the strength of togetherness. With renewed resolve, he pulled his phone from his pocket, hating the fact that it felt heavy in his hands. His mind raced with thoughts of the times he had run from responsibilities. But now, facing this choice was different. Anna was right. He could face his father and still stand his ground. Before he could overthink it, he typed out a succinct message. What do we need to discuss? As he hit send, he glanced back at Anna. There was something in her eyes, this fierce belief in him, that stirred a longing he hadn't been aware of until now. The dust of the construction site settled around them, wrapping them in a sense of community forged in hardship and hope. Then, just as Jack returned to the moment, the foreman shouted again, "We need all hands. There's another collapse." Jack's heart sank once more. The battle wasn't over. He turned to Anna, determination setting in. This is just the beginning, isn't it? More than we could ever imagine, she replied, her voice steady. Together, we can face whatever comes next. Jack could feel the weight of 1,000 choices pressing on him, but now he felt equipped to tackle them. With Anna at his side, they focused back on the chaos, ready to dive in again, but as they rushed toward the noise, Jack couldn't shake off that last message lingering in the back of his mind. Little did he know, confronting his father would bring challenges he never anticipated. Could he forge a new legacy while holding on to the one that shaped him? The sirens wailed once more, cutting through the air. The past was beckoning, the future uncertain. But one thing was clear: getting back to the heart of what really mattered wouldn't be easy. The crowd surged forward as the foreman's shout echoed through the construction site. Jack felt the adrenaline kick in again, joining the frantic pace of his coworkers. The urgency was palpable, every face around him showed determination mixed with worry. Each person rushed into action, aware that even the slightest hesitation could result in disaster. Anna! Jack called out over the clamor, searching for her amidst the chaos. He spotted her coordinating a small group, directing them toward the precarious section of scaffolding that had given way. She was in her element, calm despite the tumult around her, and it filled Jack with admiration. Their hands worked together as if they had been a team for years. The air tasted of cement dust and sweat as Jack pushed forward, staying close to Anna. They emerged near the site of the collapse, pieces of metal twisted and scattered like spilled puzzle pieces. Workers were already moving debris, but the sight of it sent a shiver down Jack's spine. Each second that passed felt like an eternity. "Get those ladders!" Anna yelled to a group nearby, her voice slicing through the noise. Jack felt the steady thrum of adrenaline as he grabbed a ladder, positioning it against what remained of the structure. "Move!" he shouted alongside Anna, urgency driving him. Together, they climbed to reach trapped workers. Jack's heart raced, not just from the physical exertion, but from the fear that came with it. This was real. This was a life-and-death situation. As they worked in tandem, he caught glimpses of Anna's determined face, illuminated by the sun breaking through the clouds. There was a synchronized rhythm to their movements, each shared glance a reminder of the bond that had formed between them. Finally, one of the trapped workers was freed, and the air erupted with cheers. Jack felt a wave of relief ripple through the crowd. They had done it. But almost immediately, the cheers died down as the foreman turned to meet Jack's eye. "We still have others unaccounted for," he barked. Jack's stomach tightened. Shit, he muttered under his breath. Faces were scanning the site, eyes wide with concern. But there was no time to lose. Jack rallied, calling out to everyone. We need teams to search. Spread out. Anna didn't hesitate. I'm with you, she replied. Together, they moved into the shadows cast by the remaining structure, merging into the dim, tense world beneath. The atmosphere was heavy, a weight that pressed against Jack's chest. Each step felt critical, too slow and they might lose someone. They called out names, spirits lifted on the hope of answers. Then, amid the debris and dust, they found another worker trapped. Jack's heart raced as he assessed the situation. The worker was still conscious, but panic had already begun to set in. Hang on, we're going to get you out, Jack promised, taking a steadying breath. As Anna moved closer, he caught her eye again, that silent communication reminding him they were in this together. It took every ounce of strength to clear the wreckage. But finally, after what felt like hours, they pulled the worker free. The silence that followed was almost surreal, layered over with anxiety and relief. Okay, you're safe, Jack said, his voice steadier than he felt. Just then, his phone chimed in his pocket. He barely had time to register it before Anna's expression compelled him to focus. Jack, she said softly, are you okay? For the first time since they had rushed in, he noticed the exhaustion on her face, mixed with an undeniable fierceness. He noticed the blood smeared against her forearm, a small cut, but it sent waves of protectiveness through him. Yeah, just distracted, he replied, pushing his phone away as the message from his father flashed in his mind, a reminder of the unresolved turmoil waiting for him outside this chaos. This moment felt significant, but the past lingered like a shadow in a bright room. Jack's choices loomed over him: stay and build this new life or return to the one he once fled. Then, just as their shared moment of relief filled the air, his phone buzzed again. He glanced at it. His stomach dropped. It was not the time for this. We need to stay focused, Anna urged, sensing his distraction. This isn't over yet. Jack nodded, steeling himself. The construction site still held more challenges, and so did his family. But as he looked at Anna, the strength between them, a new determination bloomed in his heart, ready to face whatever came next. Could they lead not just this crew, but also find a way to lead their own lives forward? Would facing his father help him build a future unshackled from the past? The questions churned inside him as the sirens wailed again, breaking through the fragile calm. Jack took a deep breath, shaking off the questions swirling in his mind. The urgency of the moment snapped him back to the present. He couldn't let his past dictate his actions now. Anna was looking at him, a mix of concern and determination etched on her face. Let us keep moving, he urged, trying to project confidence. They turned, stepping over rubble and debris, the sounds of their boots echoing in the chaotic environment. Each step felt laden with purpose, the weight of lives resting on their shoulders. Over here. A voice called out. A fellow worker gestured from beneath a fallen beam. Jack's heart sank again. It was a narrow gap, but he recognized the helmet shining within. We need help. Instantly, Jack felt the adrenaline surge again. He glanced at Anna, who had already started moving. I got this side. You take the other. Exactly, she nodded, her eyes flashing with renewed focus. They dove in, working seamlessly as if choreographed by the chaos surrounding them. Jack squeezed into the tight space, pushing debris aside, his muscles straining under the pressure. The trapped worker, a young man, looked up, terror in his eyes. Please, I can't feel my legs. Just hold on. Jack shouted, trying to keep panic from creeping into his own voice. We're almost there. Just breathe. As they cleared the last of the wreckage, Jack's hands brushed against a sharp edge. Pain shot through him, but he ignored it. Anna was right beside him, her eyes fierce. Just a bit more. You're going to be okay. There was no time to think about wounds or exhaustion. Just action. They exchanged quick glances, the unspoken bond growing stronger with each challenge they faced. Finally, they pulled the young man free, dragging him out into the safety of the open. Once outside, the boys' relief flooded the air. But there was no time to celebrate. The emergency response teams were still rushing to the scene, and uncertainty hung thick in the atmosphere. Jack turned to Anna, who was catching her breath, her face streaked with sweat and dust. "Is someone checking on the others?" he asked, anxiety creeping in again. "They should be," she replied, her voice steady but laced with the same worry. "But we need to keep searching just in case." Nodding, Jack felt a familiar tension knot in his stomach. So much risk remained, and he couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. As they moved deeper into the site, heavier sections of scaffolding loomed threateningly above them, and every creak of the metal sent shivers through him. "Jack," Anna's voice broke through his haze, strong and steady. "Remember why we're here. It's not just the job, it's about these people. We're part of their fight now." Her words resonated deep within him, a flicker of hope igniting amid the chaos. "Right," he said, his tone firming. They were in this together. But just as they turned down a narrow corridor between piles of metal, Jack heard a faint cry. It was muffled, panic rising in the air like smoke. His heart raced. "Did you hear that?" "Yes," Anna responded, fear taking a new shape in her eyes. "It's coming from over there." They both hastened toward the sound, hearts pounding in sync. As they approached a crumpled structure, Jack's mind raced. What they would find could change everything. "Jack!" Anna called out suddenly, her voice high with urgency. Before she could finish, a deafening creak echoed above them, and the air shifted. Jack looked up, dread pooling in the pit of his stomach. The scaffolding began to sway, the ground trembling beneath his feet. "Run!" But as they turned to escape, Jack realized something horrifying. They were trapped. The wooden beams groaned like old bones, and before they could truly grasp the danger, a shudder reverberated through the ground. Jack and Anna exchanged a panicked glance, the sound of metal grinding on metal filling the space around them. "Back!" Anna screamed, her voice slicing through the cacophony. Jack turned, adrenaline propelling him forward. They sprinted back the way they came, their legs pumping as the weight above them shifted ominously. Each footfall felt more desperate as the creaking intensified. Then, it happened. A loud crack split the air, and with a terrifying rush, part of the scaffolding came crashing down. Jack didn't think, he dove, instinctively pulling Anna close. They landed hard, the impact sending a jolt through his shoulder. When he opened his eyes, they were both under a jagged piece of metal, debris surrounding them like a cage. Jack looked at Anna, her face was pale, but her gaze was resolute. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I think so," she wheezed, shifting slightly. "But we need to get out of here." Jack grunted, trying to maneuver in the tight space. He could feel the same tension building in his chest from before, the feeling of too much at stake. Heart racing, he scanned their surroundings. There's got to be a way out. With a determination that shattered his pain, Jack began clearing some of the smaller debris around them, creating a little breathing room. Anna joined him, her hands trembling but her resolve unyielding. Every move was urgent, each second felt like a lifetime in the chaos. Suddenly, the muffled cries that had drawn them in before echoed around them once more, amplified and frantic. "Somebody help. Please." Jack swallowed hard. "We can't leave them," he said, glancing back at Anna. "Yes. But we need to get out ourselves first," she insisted, her voice steady. "We can't help them if we're dead." He nodded, heart pounding in his chest. As they continued to work, shoving aside pieces of debris, Jack's mind raced. It was more than just the threat of collapse, there was an invisible weight pressing down on his heart. Memories of past failures flooded him, ghosts of times he felt helpless to save those in need. He couldn't let that happen again. After what felt like an eternity, they were able to wriggle free from their small prison. Jack burst into the open air, gasping for breath. Anna followed closely behind, and he looked at her, their eyes locking. "Did you hear that?" she asked. "We need to head back to the others." The urgency in her voice sent adrenaline flooding his veins again. "Right. But we need to be quick." As they moved cautiously over the rubble, the smell of dust and metal was overwhelming. Jack's focus sharpened. In the distance, he could see emergency lights flashing, the rescue teams working furiously. Then, they heard the cry again. This time closer, raw with fear. Jack paused, dread creeping back into his veins. What if don't think about it? We go now. Anna's words pulled him back into action. They sprinted towards the sound, fear and hope colliding inside. Every step brought them closer to finding someone else out there, desperate for help. But as they turned the corner, Jack's stomach dropped. A massive wall had collapsed directly ahead of them, blocking their path. The cries were muffled now, trapped behind a mountain of debris. "Help!" The voice cried out again. No mistaking the fear that cut through the air. "Jack!" Anna gripped his arm. "What do we do?" His mind raced, every option feeling dangerously fragile. The scuffle of boots and distant sirens faded as he stared at the rubble, knowing they were running out of time. "Get ready," he finally said, a fierce determination igniting within him. "We dig." But would they find what they were looking for, or would this rescue be their last chance? As they knelt beside the debris, Jack's heart thundered in his chest. He could barely hear his own thoughts over the cries that pierced through the rubble. Anna looked at him, her eyes filled with anxiety and determination. "We can't waste time," she urged, already digging with her hands. Jack joined her, feverishly pulling aside chunks of broken concrete. Each piece felt like a testament to their desperation. "Please, anyone!" he shouted, trying to make contact. "Can you hear us?" There was a moment of silence before a soft voice answered from beneath. "Yes, help, I can't move." A wave of relief washed over Jack, but it was quickly followed by fear. The sound of her voice made it real. Someone was trapped and they had to save her. "We're coming. Hold on." The digging intensified. Jack felt the heat of exertion rise as sweat mixed with the dust on his skin. He and Anna worked in sync, urgency propelling them forward while the world around them seemed to dissolve into chaos. "We could use a shovel or something," Anna shouted over the din. "There's no time for that," Jack replied, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "I'm serious," she insisted, pausing to catch her breath. "If we dig like this, we'll just make it worse." Jack paused for a moment, the weight of the situation settling on his shoulders. She was right. His mind raced as he scanned their surroundings. He spotted a splintered wooden plank jutting from the debris like a lifeline. Perhaps it could be used as leverage to pull the heavy pieces away. "Over there." He pointed. "We can use that to pry the rubble." They scrambled, adrenaline pushing them toward the plank. Jack gripped it tightly, adrenaline bolstering his strength as he worked to pull it toward the pile of debris. Anna joined him, forcing the plank under the larger debris while they both pushed. Suddenly, more shouting erupted, this time from a nearby rescue worker, his voice like a beacon through the chaos. "We need support beams. Get them now." Jack and Anna exchanged nervous glances before continuing their work. Jack could feel his adrenaline sinking into exhaustion, but determination fueled him. Each time they cleared bits of rubble, he imagined the face of the trapped woman, her fear mingling with hope, urging him forward. After several agonizing minutes, they finally caught a glimpse of the woman's leg, pinned beneath a heavy beam. Jack's stomach twisted at the sight. "We're almost there," Anna called, her voice filled with fierce determination. Just then, the ground trembled again, and Jack felt a rush of panic. The wall behind them shifted, more rubble crashing dangerously close. "Anna, we need to hurry." Panting heavily, Anna dug deeper, her hands bloodied. Jack's muscles screamed for relief, but summoning the strength, he seized the plank again and wedged it in strategically. On 3, he said, counting under his breath. 1, 2, 3. They pushed together, heaving just enough to free the woman's leg. Almost. Anna shouted, her voice cracking, filled with urgency. With one last heave, the beam shifted just enough. The trapped woman gasped. "I thank you." But in the midst of their moment of triumph, they heard a low rumble. Jack instinctively looked up. The wall was collapsing, and they were right in its path. "Go. Now!" Jack yelled, catching Anna's arm and propelling her forward. "We have to get out of here." They scrambled, pulling the injured woman with them. Jack's breath hitched as dust filled the air, choking him, and debris rained down around them. "Run!" Anna screamed, pushing the woman forward, but Jack hesitated, wanting to look back. The cries for help were still echoing in his mind, haunting him with guilt. "Jack!" Anna's voice pierced through his moment of indecision. Ripping himself from the past, he bolted, following Anna and the woman as seconds blurred into tumult. Each step was a prayer, one that begged the universe to let them escape, but as they burst through an opening, Jack's heart sank. They were free, but at what cost? Behind them, the debris settled, hiding whatever lay within. But the cries that had fueled his resolve faded into silence. Who else is in there? Jack turned to Anna, panic coursing through him. What if? But she cut him off, her expression fierce. "We've done all we can. We need to get help." Now, standing at the edge of safety, the question loomed larger than their escape: were they truly safe, or was there still hope left behind? Jack felt the weight of their escape pressing down on him, the relief of being free tangled with the sorrow of leaving others behind. Anna's hands were trembling as she steadied the injured woman, helping her to sit against a nearby wall. Jack could see the fear etched in her face, mirrored in his own. "Is she okay?" he asked, the worry spilling out with urgency. Anna examined the woman's leg, fingers gently tracing the bruising beneath the grime. "I think it's broken. We need to get her to a hospital," she replied, her voice steady despite the chaos. "I'll go find help," Jack said, glancing back at the crumbling site. He hesitated, the screams and cries still ringing in his ears. "But what about the others?" Anna met his gaze, her eyes softening. "We'll do everything we can, but we can't just sit here. Go." His heart thundered again, this time with desperate determination. He turned and sprinted toward the fading noise of sirens, the smell of dust and despair still heavy in the air. As he raced through the debris-strewn streets, Jack's mind whirled. Questions flooded him. What was happening to those left behind? Had they even made it out? Each unanswered question clawed at him, but he pushed it aside, focusing on the injured woman and the hope of rescuing others. Just around the corner, the now familiar sight of emergency vehicles loomed ahead, lights flashing. Jack's feet pounded against the pavement, urgency propelling him forward. He burst into the cluster of rescue workers huddled together, their voices a mix of commands and emotions. "Someone's trapped. We need more people over there," he shouted, pointing back at the collapsed building. The workers turned, some grabbing tools and others rushing to his side. "We got a few victims already," one of the responders said, rounding up reinforcements. "But let us move." Jack fell in line behind them, adrenaline surging as they approached the site. Voices cried out for help from underneath the rubble. The tortured echoes that had haunted his thoughts filled the air. Suddenly, he spotted Anna, still with the injured woman. She was speaking softly, trying to comfort her even through the pain. Jack admired her strength, a beacon of hope amidst the despair. "Anna!" he called, pushing through the crowd to her side. "We need more people down there. They might still be alive." "I know," she said, meeting his gaze with fierce resolve. "I'm doing what I can here. That woman needs a medic. I'll stay with her." "You go," Jack insisted, heart pounding with the weight of his choices. Be careful, she urged, her voice breaking slightly. She looked at him like he was walking into a storm, but Jack felt the storm brewing inside him too. Without waiting for more words, he turned. Every step back toward the rubble ignited a sense of dread mingled with determination. He wasn't leaving anyone behind. He couldn't. As they arrived at the debris, the rescue team was already on the move, voices barking orders while shovels and crowbars tore at the broken concrete. Jack jumped in, his hands working tirelessly, shuffling away dust and fragments with urgency. Each piece he cleared felt like a small vow to find anyone left behind. Just then, a muffled cry pierced through the din. Jack froze, heart clenching. Did you hear that? He yelled, eyes locked on the rubble. Yes. A worker replied, adrenaline rushing through them. There's someone there. He could feel time slipping as his hands worked faster. Every heartbeat echoed an unrelenting urgency. What if they found someone? What if they were too late? A frantic shuffling broke the moment of anticipation, and suddenly, as debris gave way, they caught sight of someone's hand, a faint sign of life that ignited a hope Jack thought he might never feel again. Keep going. He urged, pushing aside the heavy remnants with everything he had left, but just as they were about to make contact, another tremor jolted the ground. Jack's stomach dropped. All that they'd worked for was teetering on the brink of collapse once more. Get back! He shouted, but the fear was palpable, and the stakes were higher than ever. Would they save whoever was buried alive, or would the rubble claim them all? As dust began to swirl violently around them, Jack made a decision. We can't let this happen again. We need to brace the support beams now. Would they manage to save the trapped soul beneath, or would this disaster bury them all in despair? The seconds stretched out like an eternity, and Jack knew the moment of truth was coming. Jack's heart raced as the tremors shook the ground beneath him, and the haunting cries filled his mind with urgency. He clenched his fists, making a decision that felt monumental in that chaotic moment. We have to brace the beams. He shouted, rallying the workers around him. We can't lose anyone else. Anna was still with the injured woman, her fierce gaze locked on the chaos. Go, Jack. I'll hold down the fort here. I trust you, she urged, her voice steady and full of strength. With a quick nod, Jack turned to the foreman nearby, desperation evident in his eyes. We need support right now. The walls might collapse again. The foreman rallied the men, barking orders to grab pieces of lumber and metal. Jack felt adrenaline surge through him as they raced against time. They worked swiftly, positioning beams strategically while Jack's eyes flickered back to the rubble. Each second felt like a ticking clock, and he couldn't shake the feeling that they were on borrowed time. Let us go. He yelled, and with a newfound determination, they began to brace the supports. It felt endless, but with each piece they secured, the sense of hope grew stronger. He could feel the weight of lives resting on their shoulders, the weight of guilt dissipating as they fought back through the chaos. The foreman shouted for everyone to clear the area, his voice cutting through the tension. Jack! Another worker called out, his voice frantic. We have to check the underneath. There's a pulse. Jack's heart jumped. Hold tight. We're right behind you. He knelt, digging with hands that felt like they were on fire. As he worked, the ground trembled again, but he ignored the fear tightening in his gut. All that mattered was the lives they could save. Suddenly, they made contact again. I can see them. The worker shouted. Jack strained to focus, pushing up debris with urgency. Help is on the way. He yelled toward the muffled cries, his voice breaking through the thick air. They pulled more rubble away. We need to be careful. Anna called from the sidelines, glancing nervously at the shifting structure above. Jack worked faster, determination mingling with fear. The cries grew louder, and in a moment of sheer adrenaline-fueled focus, they uncovered a face relief flooding Jack's heart as he saw a young woman staring back at him, fear sparking in her eyes. Hold on. We're here. He shouted, reaching for her hand, willing her to hold tight, but then the world seemed to shift around them again. The foreman's voice barked warnings, but the fear of failure pushed Jack forward. They worked as a unit, pulling the woman free inch by inch. Just a little more, you're almost there. His heart pounded in his chest, hope igniting brighter than the chaos swirling around them. Got her. Another worker shouted, pulling her free. Relief washed over Jack, but the flooded sense of triumph was short-lived. That same gut-wrenching tremor roared through the site again, and Jack's heart sank. Everybody out. Anna screamed, her voice cutting like a blade through his jubilation. Jack turned just in time to see part of the structure give way. Instinctively, he turned to Anna. We can't leave her. But Anna shook her head vehemently, urgency breaking through the dust-filled air. Jack, we can't risk it. The whole thing could go. No. Jack yelled defiantly, pushing through the fear welling up inside. The woman they had just saved was hardly out of danger. They faced down the looming threat together as he reached for the hands of the rescuers. We need to make sure everyone gets out. In that moment, they pulled everyone back. The sirens wailed louder than ever, cutting through the uncertainty, an anchor amidst the storm. Get them out. Now. Jack shouted, layering his voice over the chaos. They scrambled, each movement charged with an intensity fueled by hope and fear, a reminder that they were all human, connected by the struggle for life. As they finally pulled back, the rescue team managed to usher everyone beyond the danger zone. Jack felt the rush of triumph mixed with dread, knowing that danger still loomed. Overhead. Just as they reached safety, a deafening crash sounded. Dust and debris exploded into the air, and Jack felt a veil of darkness closing in around him. No. He cried, watching helplessly as part of the structure collapsed. He felt the sting of tears, the shadows washing over him, tears spilling as he thought of everything that could have gone wrong, every life that could have been lost, but then, from the dust, hands reached out. We did it. A voice rang out, one of the workers they just rescued. Yes. Anna's voice was a beacon amidst the chaos. A collective strength rose within them, they had fought back against despair together, and it felt like triumph. The waves of uncertainty receded slightly, yet Jack's heart raced, more urgency calling him back once again. He turned to Anna, breathing heavily, yet a small, brilliant spark of hope illuminated her gaze. We can't let fear govern us any longer, she urged softly, and Jack felt the weight of her words settle in. With new resolve, Jack faced where he knew his choices lay next. He clutched Anna's hand, with strength resonating between them. We will rebuild this, he promised, not only for them but for every soul out there still fighting. As sirens wailed and the dust settled, they stood united with purpose. Anna smiled, warmth glowing on her face, and Jack felt for the first time that maybe he was not just a billionaire lost in his own world. He was part of something much bigger. And this, the fight for each other, was just the beginning. Now, more than ever, he could feel the whispers of his past merging with a new purpose, a legacy that would lean into compassion, toward connection. They would build together. Jack locked eyes with Anna, and in that moment, they both knew that the real journey had just begun. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories, leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions and feelings about the ending, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.